We covered statement 1.3 last time. Now we are moving on to statement 1.4. So as I say, statement 1.3, statement 1.4, they are elaborating in some ways on statement 1.2. Right? Statement 1.2 establishes the principle that we should not hear that, oh, the Buddhas taught 84,000 dharmas, and therefore then think, oh yes, so I'm going to practice 7 and leave the rest alone, or even like the idea that only 1 is necessary, the rest is not, but rather statement 1.2 establishes the principle that the path to awakening is a path that consists of many different elements to be addressed and to be treated accordingly. I think I've mentioned before that many of the things that, or the way that Gongchik handles many of these issues, for me personally, resonates very much with how I have been taught about the Buddha Dharma from various other traditions outside the Tibetan context. Certain insights, certain emphasis that I've seen, that I've appreciated from Theravada sources, from Chinese Buddhist sources, from Japanese, Korean. I see these viewpoints that flow and exist in these other contexts that is not so obvious in the Tibetan context, except for in Gongchik. I see it kind of turning up in Gongchik. And for me then personally, it gives me a lot of conviction or confirmation that Gyalpa Rinpoche's understanding, resonates with insights that have arisen in other Buddhist contexts, in other traditions as well. So this idea that the path is not just one thing, that the path consists of many elements, that in a way you have to kind of collect a whole bag of tools in order to be a successful handyman, so to say. You have to have a bag of tools, and the more complete your bag of tools, the more effective you can fix these problems, rather than just walking around with a hammer and hoping that the hammer will solve all problems. So elsewhere, some of you already know I'm a fan of Bhikkhu Thanissaro and his work. And Bhikkhu Thanissaro, is a modern Theravada teacher from the Thai forest tradition, except that unlike most Thai forest monks, or monks in the Thai forest tradition, Bhikkhu Thanissaro is also a consummate scholar, a really Pali scholar. In one of the essays that he wrote, and this is one of his basic points too, he says that, and he's addressing like the contemporary Theravada issues. He says that some people, in their excitement, in their kind of like fervor to teach like Vipassana, or to teach a particular kind of Vipassana, would make these claims, and that, oh, all you need is this, all you need is that. And then he said, maybe the teachers themselves understand that this is just a skillful way of speaking. But he says, unfortunately, that kind of talk when it goes to the level of the disciples, then the disciples go and say, oh, this is the only way, and this is all you need. And he says it gives rise to this idea that, you need to only do one thing. He says, but when you look at the sutras, it's very clear that the Buddha, in his supreme skillfulness, the overall picture, when you look at the profile of the historical Buddha, he understood the path, in other words, spiritual life, as consisting of many, many different skills, different dispositions, different attitudes, different understanding, and you have to bring all of those together to form a cohesive view and understanding. So that simultaneously, and this is my point, he didn't say this, but I move it back to the context of Gongchik, it is simultaneously one, Gongchik, Gongpa Chikpa, Chikpa, one, whole, complete. But this wholeness, this completeness is not an exclusionary one. I think way back when we started this series, I talked about why a single intention as a translation for English is good to a certain degree, but leaves out, right, the nuances that exist in the Tibetan when it's called Gongchik. Chikpa is also same, is also, right? So you could also say that when we say one, even in English, when we say one, it can be an exclusionary one, which is, this is the one, everything else is not one. Everything else is other. Then that's an exclusionary one. Then there is the inclusive one. That inclusive one will say, all the different things are aspects of the one. And so the Chikpa, the one, the single of Gongchik is the inclusive one. The inclusive Gongchik. This issue of inclusive one, inclusive singularity, and exclusive singularity also plays out, by the way, in monotheistic traditions. Generally, in monotheistic traditions, the general explanation of one tends to be an exclusionary one. So they will say, this way is the only way. All the other ways are false. God is only one. Everything else is not, cannot be God, is not God. And if anything else claims to also be God, then it's, the devil's work. That's the exclusionary one. But at the same time, all the monotheistic traditions also have mystical traditions or secret traditions. They actually call it this. Where in this mystical tradition, in mystical Christianity, in Sufism, in mystical Islam, right? In Kabbalah, mystical Judaism, many of these mystics, their understanding of one is a inclusionary one, rather than an exclusive one. So anyway, I'm not saying, that is Gongchik. I'm giving you a parallel example of how the exclusive one and inclusive one plays out in other traditions. So here, statement 1, 2 wants us to understand when a number is given, whether it's 84,000 or 21 or 15 or 72, no matter the number, understand that the Dharma that the Buddha taught consists of many different elements. And when we encounter these elements, we should have the attitude of all of this. I need to know, I need to use at the right time, in the right context. And so I do not reject any of them. So in this way, it also becomes the basis for true non-sectarian attitudes. Non-sectarian doesn't mean, you mix up things. It means you do not reject other traditions based on being biased. Mine is good, yours is not so good. But rather, you have the capacity to take all and say, there's a place for this, 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 and this inclusionary attitude. Then more so, statement 1314 will be applying that principle towards different categories that have come up since the Buddha's time. Different categories that I would say, although probably the commentaries for Gongchik will not phrase it this way, but I would say that these are categories introduced later by others, such as the Tripitaka. I'm very sure, Buddha Shakyamuni never said Tripitaka, because these 3 baskets weren't put into baskets until he had passed on. So whether it's the category of the 3 baskets or the 4 Tantra classes, 1.3 is saying there is the superficial definition of 3 baskets and 4 Tantras and 9 vehicles. You also have that, 9 vehicles or 3 vehicles, or so on and so forth. So there is, maybe not superficial, there is the conventional definition of these categories, and always in the Gongchik it's like, okay, good, fine, yeah, you know those categories, but don't let your knowledge of those categories turn into a rigidity that you say, oh, this belongs here, this belongs here, this belongs here, and you are practicing this, therefore you cannot practice this. Then you are now at this level, therefore you're not at that level. No, don't do that. But understand that these categories, whether it's 3 vehicles, 4 Tantra classes, 3 baskets, 9 vehicles, 4 levels of yoga, of Mahamudra, all of that, right? All these categories, he says, the true significance of them is it's referring to the level of maturity, the level of purification, the level of development that is in a Dharma practitioner's progress to awakening. So, for example, to elaborate, elsewhere we learn that in the Tripitakas, right, Vinaya, which is the Vinaya collection, the Vinaya basket, the Sutra basket, and the Abhidharma basket. So elsewhere we learn that the main klesha that the Vinaya basket counteracts, serves as an antidote to, is desire. The main klesha, that sutra material, acts as an antidote to, is aversion. And the main klesha that Abhidharma is an antidote for is confusion or ignorance. So you can stay on the level of like, pick up a text and say, oh, this text is from Sutra, this text belongs to the Abhidharma category, part of the library, so to say, you know, and shelving these here, shelving this here, shelving this here. Okay, fine. The Gongchik wants you to see that. Don't think that because you have read, right, that book that is in the sutra shelf, that you think, oh, the sutra understanding has arisen in me. I have mastered this sutra. No, this sutra is mastered when your aversion is now being purified. Then you can say, oh, now I have the sutra basket. Oh, then now, you know, my desire is being polished away. My attachments, my entanglements are being polished away, being purified away. Then you can say, ah, the Vinaya has truly arisen in my path, in my progress, in my development. The same with these different categories. That to me, you know, is what 1.3 is saying. And 1.4 now. But before 1.4, anything about what you just heard with regards to 1.3? Please ask. Please share. Don't be shy.
In the text, it says the Sutra, Abhidharma, and Vinaya are held to be 4 topics each. Could you explain that?
Yeah, that's you know, the first says that that each of these, this is more to do with the categories that these later scholars have come up with. And so what they have done there is to say, so when you look at, when you want to distinguish between sutra material and Abhidharma material and Vinaya material, you can look at it from these 4 angles. What was the context of that particular teaching? What is the nature? What is the contents of that teaching? And what is the meaning of the teaching? And then on that basis, you can say, oh, this clearly belongs in the sutra bookshelf. Oh, or basket. Oh, this clearly belongs to the Abhidharma bookshelf or basket. So here, it's just saying, it's just Sobish unpacking a little bit for us in terms of what Chodrak's readers might understand. Yeah. I don't think we need to go into it, and I definitely have to do a lot more research to explain those 4. But the general idea is that for Chodrak, right, the commentary, yeah, for Chodrak's readers, Chodrak was writing for an educated Buddhist readership, professional monks studying in, you know, debate school and all of that, and studying to be geishis, studying to be khenpos. So Chodrak just talks about, you know, these like 4 topics, and it's Chodrak's way of saying to them, you know, you all, I know, you know, like we can talk about, you know, is this a sutra material? Is this Abhidharma material? Is this Vinaya material? And we can look at it from the question of, well, what was the context of teaching this? Where was it taught? To whom it was taught to? And on that basis, you know, the tradition has said, well, when 3 out of 5 of these you can check, then you can put it in the sutra shelf.
Okay.
And then you can put it in the Abhidharma shelf. And then you can put it in the Vinaya shelf.
So it refers to methods of analysis that were
Yes.
used.
Yes, there are used that has arisen since the Buddha's time.
And what about the 4 Tantra classes?
Same with the 4 Tantra classes is another way of classifying. And the 4 Tantra, I've mentioned, it's the Action Tantra last week, or last class, Action Tantra, Performance Tantra, Yoga Tantra, Unexcelled Yoga Tantra. Again, these are categories. So now let's look at 1.4. So the statement 1.4 says, the 3 wheels of the Dharma, or the 3 turnings of the Dharma wheel. I think maybe more literally. I don't know. I have to look at the Tibetan, but I would say the 3 turnings of the Dharma wheel show that the realizations of the retinues are dissimilar. And retinues would mean like the audience. For whom these 3 turnings of the Dharma are given, those are the retinues. So the 3 wheels, the 3 turnings of the wheel of the Dharma wheel show that the realizations, that means the understanding of the students are dissimilar. In other words, the Dharma is not dissimilar. Yeah? Can you see? So what it's pointing out here is that, it's not that the Dharma has differences. But it's the hearers, the audience's capacity have differences. Okay, then Sherab Jungne provides the context. And the context is, people claim that the Buddha taught the 3 Dharma wheels for the different types of families. This is Buddhist expression. Different types of families is related to this idea that there are spiritual potentials that are basically unchanging. So like the jewel ornament refers to this and says that there is this understanding that sentient beings basically have belong to 5 species, you could say. So here translated as families, belong to 5 species. So there are those with the Buddha seeds, Buddha species. There are those who are, there are those that are Bodhisattva species, Pracheka species, family, Shravaka or Arhat species, indeterminate, and cutoff. Cutoff potential, that means no possibility that they can achieve Buddha. I mean, generally we said, Mahayana teaches that all beings can become Buddhas. But actually, there are Mahayana traditions that even says, oh, there are some who are cut off. So what this is saying here is that, so there are some who think that the 3 Dharma wheels are 3 turnings of the Dharma wheel, are 3 sets of teachings given to 3 different species. As in, Then you say, well, what's the difference between the three different types of families and the retinues with different realizations? Let me ask you that. What is the difference between beings that belong to three different families or three different potentials and the realizations of the retinues are dissimilar? What's the difference? Any thoughts? Any ideas?
It seems that one is a more specific example of the meaning of the first, of the other.
Which is which?
Well, the vague one is the understandings of the retinues are different.
No.
Can you repeat the
Being
question?
cut off?
Yeah. Hello?
They don't say you are cut off, right?
Hello?
Can you listen to me?
Yeah, go ahead now.
That in the first three baskets, they don't speak of that I might be cut off from becoming a Buddha. But on this one, they say that I might be cut off.
Which one and which one?
On the retinues, on the one on the species, right?
No, that's not the difference. The issue is not so much about cut off or not cut off.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sorry?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is, so how is the Vajra statement different from the prevailing view that it is addressing?
Families don't change. I mean, you're in a family.
Families don't change. Yeah? If you're a gecko species, you cannot become giraffe species. Whereas the realizations of disciples can change, does change. So the prevailing view is such that it says that the different teachings are given to basically different types that will not change. And so that no matter what, a gecko can only reach the potential of a gecko. And a giraffe, following the teachings, can only reach at best the full potential of a giraffe. Whereas the Vajra statement is saying, no, there's only one potential really. We are all geckos. So even if there are teachings that seems to say, if you do this, you can eventually become a giraffe, that's just to encourage you because you're right now a giraffe. And you cannot imagine becoming a gecko. But in fact, you are actually a gecko. Having a dream that you are an imperfect giraffe now, so the Buddha has taught you how to become a perfect giraffe. Then you work on becoming a perfect giraffe, Then when you become a perfect giraffe, then you will see like, oh, actually, this is not the end of this. In fact, I think maybe I am a squirrel who thinks that I'm a giraffe. Then the Buddha will have teachings to say, okay, now as a squirrel, you should really develop in this way. And finally, leading to finally you go, oh, I am a gecko. Get it? Make sense? This example?
Yes. Lots of sense.
Yeah, so don't say, don't think that the different teachings that the Buddha gave are given to different types that are frozen. That the best you can become is an arhat. The best you can become is a Pacceka Buddha. The best you can become is a Bodhisattva. You, no hope of becoming anything. You, not determined yet.
This seems very similar to statement 1.3.
Yes, yes. Oh yeah,
A
yeah.
different way of saying.
It's a different way, and it's addressing different, different contexts that people are making mistakes in their understanding.
Doesn't it also mean you can change your classification by your realization?
Yes, and that those classifications, it's basically temporary categories given by the Buddha. Like to encourage the giraffe. Like the giraffe cannot imagine, what do you mean I'm a gecko? It's like, okay, let's leave the gecko story aside. Now you think you're a giraffe, and you think that you are an imperfect giraffe. So let's talk about how to become a perfect giraffe. But in fact, there are no giraffes. It's all geckos. It's just different geckos having different dreams about who they are. And within those dreams, having different realizations. So the Chodra's commentary on page 60. The reason is the following. Okay, so now we enter the forest, and it's easy to get lost in this forest because Chodra is writing for a very educated Buddhist audience, a very exclusive club, and we're pretending to be part of that club. So be warned, okay, you might get lost, and I know I will get lost. But let's try to enter this and see. So his commentary. Generally, the turning of the wheel of Dharma is such that different ways of understanding occurred by virtue of the retinues conceptions. Good? Got that? Yes? Thumbs up? Thumbs up? Thumbs up?
Yes.
Yeah,
Perfectly understandable.
Yeah, so he's giving Kyoba Rinpoche's view. So the different ways of understanding occurred by virtue of the retinues conception. So the Buddha just taught the Dharma, but depending on those who heard, they heard it based on their own conceptions, their own capacity to understand. This is also exactly established through the Uttara Tantra quotation, whereby the rain falling from the sky is undifferentiated. It's all just one rain, one type of rain. Yet, by virtue of the place upon which it falls, the water will acquire different tastes. If it falls on a salty surface, that water will be salty. If it falls on a bitter surface, that water is going to be bitter. If it falls on a sweet surface, that rainwater is going to be sweet. But insofar as the rain is concerned itself, it's all one taste. Moreover, in particular, the statement that the Buddha taught 3 sequential wheels of Dharma was made from the point of view of gradually guiding the retinue, gradually guiding the disciples. The Buddha said to the retinue of 5, meaning this is talking about Deer Park, first teaching to the 5 monks. Monks, since this is non-virtuous in the beginning, middle, and end, you should abandon it. And since this is virtuous in the beginning, middle, and end, you should accomplish it. So beginning, middle, and end is referring to how we how we evolve or devolve. If it is non-virtuous, it's non-virtuous at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end. If it is virtuous, no matter at what point, it is virtuous. But where we are standing, we might think, oh, this is virtuous at the beginning, and then later in the middle, it is not virtuous, and then at the end, it is virtuous again. But that is due to our own confusions. But what is virtue remains virtuous. What is non-virtue remains non-virtuous, no matter at what point. And so you can say objectively. Subjectively, it changes. Since the Buddha taught the training of eliminating and accomplishing 12 times by uttering the Dharma of the 4 truths 3 times, these are categories developed, post-Buddha. It talks about how 4 noble truths taught for 3 times, and therefore there are 12 times, 12 occasions. So Chödrá is referring to that. Since the Buddha taught the training of eliminating and accomplishing 12 times by uttering the Dharma of the 4 truths, the 4 noble truths, 3 times, those Shravakas present at the first teaching attained arhatship, and immediately afterward, a particular samadhi arose. Now, after bringing beings to maturity in this way, the Buddha turned the middle wheel of the absence of characteristics, which is the establishment of all dharmas and dharmata. All dharmas, as in all phenomena. Dharmata is the nature of these phenomena. In the manner of non-existence. That's the emptiness teachings. Moreover, he taught that one establishes the samadhis mentioned above through the discriminative knowledge of insight, prajna vipassana. The exalted one proclaimed to his retinue, as I am an arhat, you too are arhats. The retinue thought, we are the same in being arhats, but why do we not have equal qualities as the Buddha? And thereupon, they gained certainty. Meaning, at first, when the 5 monks achieved the state of arhat, Buddha said, just like me, you have now reached the arhat stage. Then, when they have arrived there, Buddha said that, then they also thought, but wait. We're not like him because he clearly has way more qualities. Then they became interested. And in that way, coming back to the commentary, they became greatly matured through the second wheel because they realized the discriminative knowledge of vipassana. And there is when they progress further. Then the Buddha negated emptiness as non-existence of all phenomena, and he dismissed the law of a vehicle by saying to his retinue, you are not arhats, and so forth. Finally, to introduce them to the cause of the Buddha qualities, just as they are, and in their various instances, he taught the final wheel, the perfect analysis of the definitive meaning. establishing the ultimate state, the pure direct perception, the Buddha's gnosis, causing them to reach the yonder shore of purity, true self, bliss, and permanence. He bestowed predictions regarding the retinue's great unsurpassable awakening. And so the Buddha said, they are brought to the greatest maturation through the third wheel. So what all of this, right? Summary of all of this, Buddha led the disciples through these degrees of realization and awakening, and gradually. And that's how we end up with the first turning of the wheel, second turning of the wheel, third turning of the wheel. It's not that, at the first turning of the wheel, he taught something that differed from the third turning. It's just that he taught it in a way that is meaningful, understandable, realizable at the level of maturity of those 5 monks that first received his teachings. When they have matured further, then he taught the teachings on emptiness. When they have matured further, then he taught what we would call Buddha nature. So now Chodra quotes Gyalpa Rinpoche. The great Drigungpa said, "The wheel of Dharma of the sage appears as 3 because he caused disciples to mature through the first wheel. He caused them to mature greatly through the second wheel, and he caused them to mature very thoroughly through the third wheel, the third turning." Then another quote, which basically says the same thing. "Furthermore, at first the members of the retinue had their minds converted through the 4 truths. Similarly, being conceited regarding permanence was stopped through the middle wheel, the non-affirmative negation. To negate that, namely the extreme of the view of nihilism, the third wheel was established as that which determines freedom from extremes, the inseparable union, the view of luminosity, emptiness." So now Chodra is going into more kind of standard understandings that is out there that shows that each of the turning of the wheel is to negate a particular wrong view, you could say. So gradually leading everyone to the final view, which is beyond all views. That is the gist of this commentary. Uh, 62, top. Therefore, these 3 stages of the wheel are such that the Buddha led the retinue, such as the retinue of the 5 first disciples, higher and higher with the Dharma conforming with their respective intellectual capacities, and then taught a final single supreme vehicle. And Sobish provides an unpacking of this in the next few pages in the notes. What's very helpful is in the notes, the 3 points, the bottom of page 62, the 3 aspects are visible in Jigten Sumgön's understanding of the turning of the wheels, a turning of of the turnings of the wheel. Again, I want to say it's one wheel with different turnings. Sobish here, I don't know. I mean, he knows the better than I don't know. My position is based on more like the understanding. So I think it's not that there are three wheels, but there are three turnings. Because in Tibetan, the noun and the verb is similar, you know. In that, you know, it's very similar to turn and to wheel. It's the same word. Like in English, we have turning and we have wheel. Two completely different words. In Tibetan, the noun and the verb, in this case, is very similar. Anyway, I'm just talking nonsense. But here, the three aspects are visible in Jiten Sumgön's understanding of the turnings of the Dharma wheel. One, they are different because of the retinues' different capacities. Two, they gradually lead upward into a single supreme vehicle. Three, the lower teachings of vehicles are not replaced by the higher ones, since all teachings and vehicles have the same topics, namely profound peace, freedom from proliferation, luminosity, and the unconditioned state of absolute truth. Moreover, in the final analysis, they all teach the definitive meaning. So this is a very helpful summary. You might want to highlight this and remember, this is Jiten Sumgön's way of understanding all the different turnings of the wheel. Then Sobish unpacks, you know, what is it in the first wheel that is emphasized? What is it in the second wheel? What is it in the third wheel? Then again, a very useful summary on page 65. To recapitulate, the wheels are established here as a progressive purification. So one, by abandoning non-virtue and accomplishing virtue, one abandons clinging to ordinary notions of purity, self, happiness, and permanence, and establishes impurity of the body, non-self, suffering, and impermanence. Establishes or realizes. So this is the first, the way that the first turning tends to express itself. By establishing the non-existence of phenomena through the non-affirmative negation that is taught in the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, and by training in the discriminative knowledge of insight, prajna vipassana, one eliminates clinging to imputed existence and imputed impurity, non-self, suffering, and impermanence. Then three, through practicing the inseparable union of emptiness and luminosity, free from all extremes, one removes the extreme of annihilation or nihilism in the form of non-affirmative negation. However, one neither abandons the trainings of the lower wheels, nor the lower wheels themselves, but only the false imputations that arise in the context of these teachings due to the initial incapacities of the respective retinues. In other words, in terms that maybe you can understand easier, definitely I can understand easier, is that the Buddha as a physician prescribes medicine. The goal of medicine, no matter at what point of your illness, is to bring you back to a state of health and wellness. And in prescribing these different medicines at different stages of your healing process, sometimes certain side effects arise due to applying the medicine. Then the next level of this, the next course of medicine will address those side effects. And then the next course will address those side effects until finally the original disease and all side effects are completely done with. That is when you are Buddha. Yes? Take away all the technical details. The technical details are very meaningful to Chodrak's readers. For us, a little bit hard because we didn't learn those categories yet. In a way, we're jumping ahead. Can you imagine if we have to teach the categories first before we read this? Then we'll be here forever. We need like 4, pandemics to be happening all at the same time. Then we'll be completely, just focus here, maybe. But then you have Zoom fatigue, right? I'm fatigued by all these fatigues that they want to talk about. That's my confession. That's me being sarcastic on Facebook. It's like endlessly. Whenever something seemingly good turns up, someone has to write an article about how terrible it is. Then we get sucked into the how terrible it is. Really, it's a very nihilistic times that we live in. No matter what, doesn't take long when someone is going to tell you why, this, there's some bad things here. There's some negative side effects here. There's some, it's like, if you get it that this is samsara, then you're like, yeah, of course. What do you expect? But at the same time, you have to know how to skillfully use anything. Chocolate, Zoom, sleep, food. If you don't know how to handle, it doesn't matter what is put in your hands, you will turn it into a weapon and harm yourself and harm others. So don't read so much. These, all the ways in which anything can be wrong and bad. Very nihilistic. Oh my God. Next time when we meet, we will start on Vajra statement 1.5. So I will take some pictures and send to you. I don't know, do you have page 65 onwards? Those of you who don't have the book? Page 65 onwards, do you have or not have?
No,
Okay, so I will send.
neither 60, 61, 63.
So 61 and 63 is missing?
Yes, 60, 61, 62, 63. The last one that you sent was
59.
59.
Oh, yeah, somebody should have said something. During the break, anyway, so from 59 on, we will, somebody, actually, I don't have to stand, somebody else has book, do some work, please. Whoever has a book, take these pictures and send to the chat group, then we can, I cannot hog up all the merit myself. You need to get some of this merit. So whoever has books, take the relevant pictures and send out, please.
Yes, someone by the name of Maria just sent out page 60 in a WhatsApp group.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Maria Carmen.
Maria Carmen. Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, send more, send more pages. And that way you all can read ahead, but don't send too many at one time, then page fatigue, So Any questions on what we covered today? No?
Yes.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
please. Yes.
Can you explain the difference between affirming negation and non-affirming negation quickly?
Oh, no.
No. Okay.
It's complicated, you know. This is Madhyamaka business.
I know.
Yeah, it's non-affirmative negation is basically, you know, as the English suggests, it means, you know, when I say it is not this, 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 I'm not saying that it is something else. I'm just saying, you know, if you ask me, is the eye the body? No. All I'm saying that it is not the body. I'm not saying that it is something else. That's non-affirmative negation. Got it? You're not to think, oh, maybe it is not this, not this, not this, not this, not this, but it is that, and that. No, you should not think that. All I am saying is, it is not this, it is not this, it is not this, it is not this, it is not this. It's not the body, it's not the mind, it's not the combination of body and mind. It is not body and not mind. That's all I'm committing to. That's the non-affirming negation. Affirming negation is when I can still say, it's not the body, it's not the mind. But actually, I'm already hinting, it is something else. And that something else, you don't know yet. That's an affirming negation. That's a very kind of oversimplified, in fact.
Okay, thank you.
What it's saying here is that in the second turning of the wheel, all those teachings that scholars and great masters have labeled as, you know, the middle wheel, the second wheel, meaning material that you most often would find in Madhyamaka teachings, in Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. Yeah? They say there, whenever the Buddha says no, 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 they are non-affirming negations. That all the Buddha is doing there is whatever concepts, whatever categories that you, me, are committed to, attached to, obsessed with, entangled with, the Buddha is helping us cut them all away. And that's what's going on in the second wheel. But when we come to the material that is classified as the third turning of the wheel, then there are affirming negations going on there. That's, you know, in Buddhist philosophical circles, that's debated to no end. Some Buddhists will say, no, there is never any affirming negation. It is all just non-affirming negations.
But is the reason that they say that because of the level of understanding? In the second turning, you may get it, or you don't know it, you don't understand it.
Yes.
At the third level, you may begin to see it.
Correct. Yes, that would be those who say that there is affirming negation. Will say that at the second level, you could say our confusion is still so coarse, so blunt. So the Buddha has to unequivocally negate everything that we want to say it is, including, oh, but it has to be love, right? No. Oh, but surely compassion we need to have. No. Second turning. Then third turning, oh, there is love, there is compassion. But it's saying that if you don't get rid of, this coarse confusion, even the Buddha quality of love and compassion, you can, mess it up. So here, to bring it back to Gongchik, it's, to me, it's saying, in the end, it's not about, debating, is there love or is there no compassion? Or is there compassion in the Buddha state? That you can debate all you want.
Mhm.
But you can also experience this. People who saw Buddha Shakyamuni, they experienced his love and compassion. Without any faults.
Mhm.
So from that perspective, yeah, of course, Buddhas have qualities. But believe it or not, in terms of debate, in terms of scholars, great masters, no doubt, when they debate, some hold the position that, you cannot say Buddhas have any qualities because all your ideas about qualities is all based on confusion. So you cannot say anything about Buddhas having any qualities.
Reputaciones de la mente.
And there are some who says, no, of course you can say Buddhas have qualities. If not, if Buddhas don't have qualities, then, that rock over there must be Buddha. It doesn't have any qualities. And so on and so forth. And the debate continues.
Make your own conclusion.
Mhm.
But Jigten Sumgan says, Kabar Rinpoche says, no. More important is not these categories. More important is to understand that these categories are given. To the degree that they're helpful and useful, it is for you to purify
For us. Mhm.
your confusions.
Mhm.
It is for you to purify your negative karmas. And so use it that way.
Thank you.
Changchu Samcho Rinpoche Ma Kye Panam Kye Gyurche Kye Ba Nyam Pa Me Pa Yang Go Ne Gong Du Pe War Shu